In today's video, I want to explain why breakups with avoidance hurt so deeply. I've experienced this myself and I've helped many men rebuild after going through it. We'll break down what's actually happening psychologically, how to spot the signs early, and how it affects you as a man, but most importantly, how to reclaim your identity so you don't end up in this position again. So let's get straight into today's video. So why do avoidant patterns exist? Firstly, this isn't about blaming or shaming anyone, it's understanding the pattern. You see, most avoidant people still want love, they want connection, but when intimacy starts to become real, that's where their nervous system interprets it as a threat and they begin to pull away. And you might have noticed this yourself, right? After being in a relationship with an avoidant partner, as soon as things get real within the relationship, that's when they start to, run the other direction. And this can be quite damaging for you as a man, because once you experience this, you end up chasing the other person and you lose the whole polarity dynamic within the relationship. But we'll get into that further. You see, avoidant behavior is a defense mechanism. It's how someone protects themselves from getting hurt by limiting emotional closeness. And often the wiring starts early. So if someone grew up in a home where emotions weren't safe, right? For example, expressing sadness or anger was met with stop crying or stop being so dramatic, they learned to suppress their emotions instead of processing their emotions. And vulnerability, that may have been ignored. Maybe they tried opening up, but they were dismissed, they were laughed at, they were told to toughen up. So they learned that opening up leads essentially to rejection. A parent may have been emotionally distant. Now, maybe one parent was physically present, but emotionally unavailable. So they were never affectionate, they were never expressive, so emotional closeness never felt natural or safe. Conflict meant withdrawal. So maybe arguments in the household were never resolved. One parent would shut down, disappear emotionally, or give the silent treatment. So they learned that closeness leads to getting shut down. Love felt inconsistent. Maybe affection was conditional. One parent could have been warm one day, cold the next, so they learned that connection is unpredictable and unstable. So essentially, when a child grows up in that environment, they adapt. They survive by being self-contained, independent, and guarded. So later in adult life, when real intimacy starts to form, their nervous system doesn't see this as love. They can grow into adults who associate closeness with danger. So as a child, they learn, if I rely on people, I get hurt. If I open up, I lose control. So they survive by being independent, emotionally guarded, and self-contained. Avoidance partners are not purposely trying to be evil or cold. It's a defense mechanism deeply rooted from childhood, and it's how their nervous system responds. And the major problem here is this: it directly affects the intimacy in a relationship, but more importantly, the ability to maintain a healthy long-term relationship. So now let's get into the reality of the relationship. So in the honeymoon stage, everything feels easy. They're affectionate, they text consistently, they talk about the future. You feel chosen, you feel like a king at this point, because at this stage, intimacy is light. There's no pressure yet. But when things deepen and the relationship starts to progress, that's where patterns start to show up. Let me share some examples that you more than likely can relate with. When you talk about exclusivity or anything serious to do with the relationship, they say, let's not rush, let's take time. And you might have been in this relationship for, let's say, 6 months to a year at this point, and this is generally the feedback you're getting from the other person. When you express deeper feelings, they pull back slightly, right? When you start to express how you feel, maybe you were upset when it came to a fight or a disagreement or an argument, they generally pull back. They don't want to talk about it. Or they might shut down, they might walk away, they might give you that sort of cold treatment, and they generally don't want to repair that particular argument or disagreement, right? They generally want to just keep moving forward, and they don't want to resolve anything to do with conflict, right? They're very good at avoiding conflict. And when you might have had these deeper conversations with this person, you might have got the feedback from them saying, you're overthinking, you're being too sensitive, why does everything need to be so serious? It's always about you. Right? They kind of use this defense mechanism in a way that comes across as, reverse psychology, where they project their insecurities or the unhealed trauma from their end and they project it onto you. And that's why a lot of men generally go through a breakup in a very painful way, because they start to blame themselves. But then once we uncover the other person and why they have acted in a certain way, we can understand that it's not them. They've just been in a relationship with someone that they're not compatible with. And essentially at this point, when you've experienced what I've just shared with you, you stop feeling secure with this person. You don't really see a future with this person. You feel like you're in a one-sided relationship. You begin to chase, they withdraw, right? And she runs further away. And you end up, again, losing that polarity within the relationship. You start losing your whole frame as a man. And that's where the real damage starts to begin. And that leads me to the next point, which is how it affects you as a man. This is essentially the identity collapse that men go through. So what makes a breakup with an avoidant partner so hard isn't the loss, right? You might think it's that person breaking up with you or going cold, right? And she's gone and she's no longer in your life anymore. But I want you to really think about it. It's what happens to you during the relationship, right? This is where your identity starts to collapse. So go back to when you were in a relationship with that person, right? You would have started to overthink. You started to analyze her tone changing. You check your phone consistently. She leaves you unread. You start getting, deep heightened anxiety because you're in a relationship with this person, but they just feel emotionally distant. You start replaying conversations over and over in your head. You start to question your own self-worth. You start to lose self-respect, right? Think about it. All the habits, all the routines, all the discipline, all the goals, all the things that you had going on, or the things that you were working on silently in the background, right? Your dreams, your aspirations, your purpose, all these things get put to a side. Why? Because your energy is not getting used in the right way, right? We're meant to, as men, use our energy towards things that help us grow. But when we're in a relationship with someone we're not compatible with, our energy goes directly towards repairing the relationship all the time. But the problem here is it's very hard to repair a relationship with someone who has childhood trauma. But essentially you start lowering your standards just to keep the connection alive. Things that you normally wouldn't do, you lower your standards, right? It's because your self-worth has taken a hit. And at this point, you end up doing things that you normally wouldn't do as a man, right? That's where you start to lose yourself during the relationship. You stop being grounded, right? As I said before, your habits, your structure, you stop maybe going to the gym now, you stop eating clean, right? Because you're feeling emotional. You start maybe leaning into vices, right? You lose that masculine groundness that you had before as a man. You stop even making time for your friends. Think about it, because you're not yourself anymore. You're now in this, toxic kind of relationship where it's hot and cold consistently. This is where you start to lose yourself, right? So you don't even feel like meeting up with friends because the only thing on your mind right now is, I want to be with this person. I want to try and repair that last argument. And I want things to move forward. You're always trying to problem solve a problem that technically has already been solved, right? It's very hard to progress with someone like that who makes you lose your identity in the process. And you'd understand this because when you entered the relationship, you would have been in a certain way. You would have carried yourself a certain way. That's what made her attracted to you in the first place. But as this relationship started to get toxic, that's where you start to lose yourself as a man. So over time, after being in the relationship with this person, your confidence starts to drop. Your nervous system stays activated and heightened. You go through anxiety. You might even go through depression. Your mental health at this point is compromised. You feel reactive instead of centered. You're not grounded anymore as a man. And then maybe, as I said, it could lead to vices to escape or numb the pain. The real damage isn't that they pulled away. It's your sense of self becoming tied to emotional uncertainty. You weren't just in love, you outsourced your identity. And when the breakup happens, it didn't feel like you just lost a person, it feels like you lost yourself. And that's where we as men, we experience what's called an identity collapse. So now let's get into the next part, which is reclaiming your identity. And the main question here is, how do we stop this from happening again? Yes, you can raise more awareness, you can get better at picking up signs, but understand awareness alone isn't enough. The real protection comes from rebuilding your foundation as a man. Think about it, your identity has taken a hit. So this is where you need to start to reclaim your identity as a man. You don't chase clarity because you require it. You don't ignore red flags because of chemistry, right? You don't mistake that for compatibility. You don't tolerate inconsistency just to feel chosen, right? You don't come from a place of fear and scarcity, because a lot of men, and I've done this myself, when we get into dating, it comes from a place of fear and scarcity. So we end up selecting people that are not right for us. right? As soon as we get a bit of chemistry, we think that that's enough. We think that we've deepened a connection with this person. But at the end of the day, trust me, from all the mistakes I've made from being in long-term relationships, I'd have to say chemistry and compatibility, two different things, right? You want to make sure that this person is compatible and this is the right person to invite into your life. So rebuilding looks like rebuilding structure, rebuilding discipline, rebuilding purpose, and most importantly, rebuilding self-trust, which leads to increasing your value as a man, which then leads to inviting the right woman to match the energy of that identity. So the more grounded you are in who you are, the less destabilized you become with emotionally unavailable people. You stop trying to be enough for someone and you start to become aligned with your true self. And the bonus section is awareness going forward. So if you want early awareness signals, right, I want you to observe the following, especially when you're in the dating stage of meeting this particular person. How do they speak about past relationships? They talk negatively about their past partners. Do they take responsibility in life, right? Are they always trying to grow as a person, or are they just staying stuck? They don't really have purpose. How do they handle conflict? When things don't go their way, how do they show up, right? Because everyone's always good when everything's going right. But when things don't go right, how does this person handle conflict? Do they shut down or do they communicate? Do they have long-term stable relationships in their life? How do they speak about their parents in their life? Do they speak positively or negatively about them? Remember, you're not judging. You've got to be very cautious with inviting the right type of person into your life, right? Otherwise it will cost you later down the track. So at this point, you're just observing the patterns. But remember, the strongest protection isn't vetting perfectly. It's about building an identity that doesn't collapse when someone withdraws. So if today's video resonated with you, focus on rebuilding your foundation, not chasing closure. And if you need help recovering from a breakup and you want to reclaim your identity, you can click the link down below and I'll see if you're the right fit for my program and if it makes sense to work together or not. But other than that, I appreciate you watching. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. If you can give this video a like, it really helps the algorithm. Being a smaller channel, I really appreciate anyone that supports this channel. If you have any comments, drop them down below. Share this video if someone's going through a breakup with an avoidant partner. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll see you in the next one. I hope you have a blessed and beautiful day. Peace out.